Hey guys, welcome to Nyonya Cooking, the place for Southeast Asian comfort food. Now, one of those recipes that I really love making in my home are traditional recipes. And today we're going to attempt to do one, and this is how to prepare Nasi Ulam Nyonya. So as you know, the Peranakan cuisine is really delicious because of all the flavors that it has. It's a combination of the Malay and also Chinese cuisine. And in this particular dish, it also incorporates all these different kind of flavors that we have. There are many variations to Nasi Ulam, and today we are going to attempt the Peranakan version of it. There are many different ingredients here. Some of the ingredients you may or may not get in the place you're living right now, but do not worry, I have all the ingredients and also substitutes for you on the website nyonyacooking.com, and that's where you also find the full recipe, and the link is in the description box below. So there are three sections to making Nasi Ulam. First of all, you need the flavoring. Secondly, you need the roots, the ingredients that will give you a bit more spiciness to it, and thirdly, these are the fresh herbs. Now, Nasi Ulam is just basically rice salad, so it is using rice, but not really hot rice, but rice that has been cooled down, because you wouldn't want to stress the vegetables. You wouldn't want it to cook in the process of mixing all these ingredients. There are a few ingredients that you will need to cook, and let me show you what they are. So over here I have a pan that is heated up at medium heat. We're going to cook these few ingredients in this order. So we'll begin with shredded coconut. If you do not have shredded coconut, use desiccated coconut. And all we're going to do is to just toast it until it turns brown. So it will take a few minutes until it turns really brown. So be very careful, because from brown to burn, it's very quick, so you wouldn't want these shredded coconuts to be burned, and therefore you need to be really patient. So keep the heat low to medium, and carefully just use a spatula and toast it. So this is the final result that is golden brown, and we have to either blend it, or I would prefer to use the pestle and mortar just to crush it a little. Now, we're not going to pound it until the oil comes out like what we did for rendang. So rendang is this really delicious coconutty curry that also uses this particular step. In rendang, you're going to pound this shredded coconut until it releases its oil. But in this case, we're not going to do that. So it's going to pound it until it's like powder-like, and then we're going to stop. The second ingredient that we're going to cook would be these dried shrimps. So all we're going to do is, in the pan with a bit of oil, we're just going to saute it until it gets really crispy and brown, and that's when we're going to bring it out, and I'm going to show you how it's going to look like. Once it's fried, just put it into the blender, and this is the final result. So it's also slightly powdery. The third and last ingredient that we're going to cook here is the salted fish, and all we're going to do is to fry it. With the same oil that I have earlier with the dried shrimps, I'm going to add the salted fish to it. And again, over here, you're going to fry it until it's golden brown. Now, once it is fried, remove the skin, because we will only be taking the flesh. Here I am using a pair of chopsticks with a small fork. It's actually a dessert fork. But all we're going to do here is to just shred it into really small pieces. Be very careful, because sometimes there will be also bones. Just a reminder, when you're making Nasi Ulam, or when you're frying salted fish, it's going to be really pungent. So for those of you who are living abroad, that's a reminder, and that's also a warning. That was the toughest part of the whole recipe. So the first part of the ingredients is all meant to give the saltiness and also this really fragrant smell from the desiccated coconut or shredded coconut, depending on what you're using. Now the second part of the ingredient would be the root ingredient, or the ingredients that are slightly harder, and that we have some galangal, and you also have to cut it into strips. So be very fine and cut it into strips because you wouldn't want to chew onto hard ingredients. And then we also have shallots, and remember to also cut it very finely. Next we have lemongrass. Now lemongrass can be slightly harder and it's a little bit difficult to chew, so cut it very finely. And then we have ginger torch flower. Now ginger torch flower may or may not be available in your location. Now if you can't get it, then it's okay, you can skip this ingredient, but it really gives out this beautiful color and also flavor to nasi ulam. And over here again, I am slicing it very finely. Now to add some coloring to nasi ulam, we are also going to use turmeric. Now because turmeric is also another root ingredient, over here we have to again chop it very finely, chop it into strips. Here I have some long beans, which I've already cut into slices, and you can do the same as well. If you do not have it, you can skip it. And as for the other green ingredients, we have turmeric leaf, and I'm only going to use half of it. So turmeric leaf is coming from the plant turmeric, and over here I have wild pepper leaves. Next, laksa leaves, or Vietnamese coriander, kaffir lime leaves. So do remove the stalks because we wouldn't want to chew into really hard pieces. Mint, and just place all of them together, and also some basil. Now you can do this separately, meaning that you can slice it individually by itself, but I like to take the shortcut using scissors. Roll all the herbs into a long cylinder like this, either using a knife or kitchen scissors like over here. I'm just going to slice it. This is the final result. Now just before I use it, again I like to chop it into smaller chunks, just so we wouldn't have such a long piece of leaf in our Nasi Ulam Nyonya. Now last but not least, we're going to mix the rice with all these different ingredients, but we're not going to throw everything together at once and mix it up. So first of all, remember, as I mentioned earlier, use the rice that has been already cooled down. So in a big bowl, I'm going to add rice. It's best to use rice with less starch. Here I have Thai jasmine rice, and first of all, what you're going to do is to add the shrimps. Now we are basically going back to the various ingredients that we had earlier. So the first section of the ingredients would be shrimps, and then toasted coconut, and also salted fish. The smell now is fantastic. And then we stop because we're going to mix the ingredient. Now this step is very crucial because rice by itself does not have much taste, and having these three ingredients first would actually provide taste to each and individual rice, and that's what we want. Be careful with the rice grains, you wouldn't want to be mashed or crushed, but at the same time you want all these ingredients to sort of coat every grain of rice. The next set of ingredients would be the root vegetables. So we'll begin with turmeric. And I usually like to give it a few quick stirs first before adding the rest of the ingredients. Now you would already notice that the rice is turning yellow, and that's because of the turmeric. Then we can go on to add galangal, lemongrass, shallots, and also ginger torch flower. Then we're going to move to the third part of the ingredients, and that will be the greens. So here I have long beans. Just going to give it a few quick stirs. And lastly, the herbs. Just as I sprinkle it on, the whiff of aroma that comes from the herbs, fantastic. That really makes me excited. So guys, this is a very simple dish. It requires a lot of preparation beforehand, and of course you can do this hours before. And anyway, this rice is served at room temperature, so it's very easy to prepare if you have a party, and you can serve it with curries or sambal belacan, which I'm going to do so. And of course, all the link is in the description box that you have to check out. So there you go, we have a bit of saltiness from the first set of the ingredients, spiciness from the second set of ingredients, and the herbs would give this really fresh taste to it. To add a bit of sourness to this dish, I'm going to use a bit of calamansi juice. Now if you don't have it, you can use lime. So that's about it. Look at the beautiful colors. Doesn't it scream celebration? So you have some redness, some green, some yellow, some orange. It looks so beautiful, and guys, let me tell you, it smells fantastic. I think at every whiff I could smell different types of ingredients coming through, and because these are all fresh ingredients, so they stay subtle but yet it's still pretty strong. So I'm just going to grab a spoonful if you don't mind. Bit of taste as usual. So if you guys know me, I do not really like salad, but if salad is going to taste like that, I'm all in. The flavors are fantastic. It's just that you have bits and chunks of vegetables all over. But that's the fun thing about Nasi Ulam Nyonya. And over here, I've used many different ingredients that may be a bit exotic for you. But as I mentioned, do not worry if you can't get all these ingredients. Then head on to the website where I have the full recipe and also substitutes for you. So there you go, Nasi Ulam Nyonya. Many of you guys requested this recipe. So quickly try it out and send me your photos on nyonyacooking.com, where you can post your photos of your recreations. Until then, I wish you happy cooking!